G'day guys, how's it going? My name is CJ. So I've spent the last 48 hours using the iPhone X, and I'm going to give you my first impressions about what I think of this device in the first couple of days of using it. Let's get started. So I want to first start talking about the design. The iPhone X is a stainless steel slab sandwiched between two pieces of reinforced glass that Apple says is the strongest that they've ever manufactured. So what we end up with is a phone that's slightly thicker than the iPhone 8, 7 or 6 models, and you've got the two pieces of glass where at the edges it kind of melds into the actual frame of the phone itself. So in the end, you have an iPhone which is really ergonomic, really nicely held in the hand, and is actually a really great size when you're coming from an iPhone 7 Plus or an 8 Plus. Keep in mind that you'll probably want to keep your phone in a protective case as well, because this phone is astronomically expensive to repair if you break anything other than the front glass. What I've noticed in the last couple of days of using this phone, with the way I usually grip my phones, combined with the new software interactions that come with the iPhone X, it's a little bit more difficult to get to the home screen when you swipe up. You kind of have to stretch your thumb a little bit further. That being said, it's nothing that we haven't already experienced with bezel-less Android phones as well. The home button on those phones tend to be a little too far down, and I actually have to adjust my grip just that tiny little bit in order to reach the bottom. And then we've got what everyone will be looking at, and that's the screen. So what we've ended up with is a 5.8-inch Samsung manufactured OLED display with a resolution of 2436 by 11,025 pixels, ending up with a pixel density of 451 pixels per inch. However, the main story here is in its OLED technology. So aside from having one of the most color accurate displays, we've also got one that's super crispy and also has one of the best contrast ratios of any phone on the market today. So combine this with the True Tone sensors, what you've got is a display that looks beautiful regardless of any lighting situation. Apple's done some weird magic in regards to the glass lamination, because the screen itself almost looks like it's on the surface of the glass itself. It almost looks like you can touch the LEDs individually. Now of course it's not completely perfect. I mean, to start off with, as it is the case with most OLED displays, there is a tiny little bit of blue tint when you tilt it from side to side. However, it's actually nothing more than you would expect to see in, say, a Samsung Galaxy S8 or even a Note 8. And it's definitely better than the Pixel 2 XL. And then we've got the most polarizing part of the screen, which is that notch. If you're someone who uses the phone primarily in portrait mode, you're really not even going to pay it any mind. In fact, I stopped noticing it in portrait mode almost instantly after I started using it as my daily. However, if you're someone who watches a lot of movies or looks at a lot of photos in full screen on your phone, then you definitely will notice it. And if that's going to be an issue, then I can completely understand you shouldn't get this phone. And then we've got the refresh rate of the display. It doesn't sport a 120Hz screen like the iPad Pro does, but it does sport a 120Hz touch responsiveness. And when you combine that with the CPU of the iPhone X, what you've got is one of the fastest phones that's on the market today. When you combine all of this with Apple's A11 Bionic chip, you've got a phone that absolutely flies through any task that you could throw at it, whether it's multitasking through a bunch of different apps, watching videos, playing movies, listening to music, downloading podcasts, downloading massive apps, processing photos, you name it, it'll completely fly through it. And not once in the last 48 hours did I detect any hint of lag or stutter. So the actual learning curve for the new gestures is actually not that steep, and I got used to using these new gestures within 1 or 2 hours of starting up the phone. However, there were occasional times where I forgot that this was an iPhone X and I was looking for a home button, just aimlessly tapping at the bottom of the phone for no reason. Or I looked at the screen of the phone and for some reason thought I was using maybe a Samsung Galaxy S8 or a Note 8 and tried to force touch the home button instead. So now we'll talk about one of the most important parts of a smartphone, and that's the cameras. And starting off with the front side, let's talk about Face ID and the True Depth camera. Face ID for myself has been working most of the time. It's a little bit hit and miss in broad daylight. However, when you take it indoors, it works almost 100% of the time for me. The reliability of Face ID is definitely above the Note 8. However, if it comes to consistency, I would still definitely rate Touch ID above Face ID. And that also goes for speed as well. However, there weren't any situations where Face ID was significantly slower than Touch ID to negatively affect the experience. Now, core to the technology of Face ID is the new True Depth sensor in the front-facing camera. And then what the True Depth sensor has allowed people to do now is turn themselves into an emoji. On the surface it seems like a really stupid and a really silly feature, but I think it works really well as a demonstration of how accurate the True Depth sensor can be in capturing the different facial muscles and facial expressions. Now the True Depth sensor isn't only limited to animojis, because that'd be just stupid. But no, you can actually use the True Depth sensor to take portrait photos with the selfie camera now. However, I'll put it out there straight away, from the last couple of days that I've been using it, the Pixel 2 definitely does a better job at taking selfie portrait photos. The iPhone X has a lot of difficulty detecting edges and hair. So a lot of the photos that I took, it ended up blurring out my ears, blurring out my hair, and even sometimes blurring out just weird parts of my body. Because when you compare to the selfie portrait photos from the Pixel 2, they look really nice, really natural, and have much crisper and much more accurate borders. So let's talk about the rear cameras. Like the iPhone 8 Plus, it sports a dual lens system with an f1.8 aperture wide-angle lens and also an f2.4 optically stabilized telephoto lens, and both of them sporting a 12 megapixel sensor. Now from the limited time that I've been using this phone, I've already noticed that it's doing really well and is quite a step above at least the iPhone 7. It sports much better dynamic range, the stabilization is excellent, and the optical stabilization for the telephoto lens means that it's much more usable in low light. The image processing has definitely improved, and unlike Apple, a lot of the photos turn out a lot more contrasty than they used to, as opposed to the old sort of natural look that Apple used to go for. That being said, I'm going to be doing a few videos looking at a more detailed comparison between other flagship phones like the Pixel 2 or the Galaxy Note 8. So definitely subscribe and look out for those videos. Battery life has been pretty good. It's definitely not as great as an 8 Plus or a 7 Plus, but it's definitely multiple steps ahead of the base model. And basically I've been able to get through a whole day without needing to charge my phone, and that's even with fairly heavy media consumption. In any case, my overall impressions of the iPhone X in the first 48 to 72 hours of using it has been really positive. There's been a lot of hype surrounding this particular phone, and it's being sold at an astronomically high level. Whether or not the iPhone X is worth its price is yet to be seen, and I'm going to have to wait until I do my full review in order to give my conclusions. If you're keen to see what my final thoughts are about the iPhone X, be sure to give us a like and make sure you're subscribed so you'll be one of the first to be able to see that video. What do you think about the iPhone X? Do you think it's a massive waste of money, or do you think it's a great phone? Do you think it's worth it? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, give us a like, and if you haven't already, do consider subscribing. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Say good day, Mum, for me. Cheers.
Once again.